And gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Still in Developmental podcast. I'm your host, Austin Jones. I'm joined here with my co-host, Xavier. We're back at it again. It's a nice Tuesday night here in Tennessee. It's October 13th, 2020, and the
Thank you.
time on the clock reads 9:14 p.m. Since we've last joined you guys, a lot of things have happened in sports, and I mean a lot.
Yes. Before we move on, I just want to go ahead and get this out the way. On the last episode, y'all heard me boosting up my Clippers. Well, they're not my Clippers. They're my Clippers for the season. And I just like to know I'm a man. I don't get paid millions by ESPN or Fox Sports to not admit stuff, which no offense to them. I love all those guys. That's not a shot at them. I love all of them, but they're never going to admit anything because they get paid, and I can't blame them. But I'm not getting paid. So I'm going to sit here and tell you I was wrong. I was straight up wrong. Kawhi choked. The whole Clippers team choked. There's no way around it. Sorry, Austin. You can go ahead now.
Hey, look, I mean, if we're going to go there, I was right. I was 110% right, and I'm a bask in that. I knew the Clippers were frauds. Patrick Beverly, he ain't anything. But speaking of the NBA, since we've last joined, obviously the playoffs have happened, and the NBA Finals wrapped up on Sunday, where the Los Angeles Lakers won their 17th NBA championship. They won in 6 games over the Miami Heat. The Lakers were able to close out the series 106-93 in Game 6. Obviously, the Game 6 would have been in Miami in a regular season. It was in the Orlando bubble because of coronavirus. Uh, LeBron James was Finals MVP. He averaged 29.8 points per game, 11.8% assists per game, pardon me, and 8.5 rebounds per game. Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat led them in scoring, averaging 26.2 points per game. Dwight Howard won his first ring, which caps off what was already a first ballot Hall of Fame career. I'm not going to take any Dwight Howard slandered over here. He completed his redemption arc and won his first career ring with the Los Angeles Lakers. Rajon Rondo became the first player in NBA history to win a championship with both the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Pierce is still bitter on talk shows talking about LeBron ain't top five. And to wrap things up on a humorous note about the NBA Finals, Quinn Cook was left at the arena.
Yes, he was.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you guys caught that.
I mean that's great humor right there. The man Quentin Cook said, "Turn the bus around."
Yeah, on J.R. Smith's Instagram Live, nonetheless.
Yeah.
That's what J.R. Smith said. Hey, where Quinn at? He said, where Quinn at? Where guys? We left Cook. Turn
Yeah.
around. We left Quinn. We left Q.
Mad respect for the Lakers. Mad respect for the Heat too. The Heat overachieved in many people's eyes. I don't think there was a
Absolutely.
person that thought they were going to go that far. That team's going to be just fine. Me and you have had this conversation, not recording, but I think we both think they're going to get a big splash in free
Yep.
agency. Well, not this summer. I guess this winter, fall. I guess so. We're going to see what's going to happen there. But I mean, what else can you say? King James has four now. Rondo, dude, that's so huge. First player in history to win with the Lakers and the Celtics. When you really sit down and think about it, that's ridiculous. Like that is phenomenal history. I mean, like you said, Dwight. Shout out to Dwight. Shout out to the whole Lakers team. They did what they had to do. They balled. Like we're not going to have the whole GOAT debate because, quite frankly, we both agree on it. So it is what it is. But I mean, you can't take like even you can't take away what the Lakers did. They're champions in arguably the toughest season ever with all the stoppages. So, I mean, what else can you say? They're champs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's what I've seen people. I've seen LeBron haters calling this a Mickey Mouse ring, easy path to the championship. I disagree with that completely, and other NBA players have echoed this sentiment. This was such a mentally taxing season to have. You had the break in March. They came back. Was it June, July that they went to the? I think it was late June, early July. They
Yeah.
go to Orlando. They're in the bubble. The Lakers and Heat just now left the bubble in mid October.
Yes.
So, they were there for months. You're away from your family for the majority of it. Eventually, families were able to come in, but not at the
Yes, they
start.
were. Man,
You had that long break, which can really throw off your rhythm and your conditioning. And the
yeah.
Lakers were able to come out here. They beat the red hot Portland Trailblazers and bubble MVP Damian Lillard in the first round.
Yes, they did.
Um, the second round, they faced the Houston Rockets, who have the last two MVPs not named Giannis and James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Beat them in five. They faced the Denver Nuggets, who came back down 3-1 in the first and second round, knocked off the Los Angeles Clippers, who were the title favorites for every major sporting site. Had the Clippers as the favorite for the title. They come back, they beat the Clippers. The Nuggets beat the Clippers, and the Lakers were able to put out the just flaming hot torch that was Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray,
Yeah.
and then come in and they beat the gritty, grindy Miami Heat. They did have Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo, both were dealing with injuries, but still, you got to respect this Heat team, and you got to respect what the Lakers did. The Heat swept the Pacers, then beat the reigning two-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in Giannis and the Bucks, then beat Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and hats off to them for pushing it to 6 games, and hats off to LeBron for his fourth, AD for his first, and the Lakers to their 17th.
Yes, no doubt. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Look, I've never been afraid to say this. Austin is a much more basketball knowledgeable than me. And like we both love football, but I'm a full-fledged football guy. So when the season started, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't watching much NBA basketball when football games were on. But even then, you gotta respect LeBron. You gotta respect what the Lakers did. There's no way around it. I'm sure we'll do an NBA preview show whenever the bubble starts back up again. But I just want to end this on a humorous note. Do we have an update on Bronny? Do we know what's happening?
Okay, actually, speaking of that, I saw a clip on Twitter last night, and Odell Beckham Jr. was playing Warzone. He's playing it with some kid who I think he's friends with Bronny. I think he usually runs with Bronny. And Odell was like, "Hey, where Bronny at? Bronny getting on?" And the kid goes, "Oh no, Bronny said he couldn't get on tonight." And
Oh,
Odell smirks and goes, "Huh? Wonder why."
ain't that something? Now look,
So
we have no official reports, but just for fun and games, I find it interesting.
I think Bronny got sent to the gulag.
Look, y'all, if you know, you know, y'all have Twitter. Bronny, like, dude, when Jimmy won game five, Bronny was like, "Oh, thank you, Jimmy." And then game six came around, Bronny was like, "No, I'm coming home." So I don't know, man. Look, I mean, this is a sports podcast. Personally, I have no issue with it if it's legal and if you're not going anywhere. But obviously, I don't think Barney is of age, even if he's in the right state where it's legalized. And like, you gotta know who your dad is. You can't do that. So, I, I mean, like Barney, like you messed up, dog. I don't know what you want me to say.
Look, I'm not the one getting sent to the gulag, so it ain't my issue.
Like, it ain't my business. It's entertainment.
But that does wrap up the NBA discussion for this season. I believe free agency is scheduled to open on December 1st.
Yes,
So we'll have a
yes.
little bit of a dead period there, but it's going to be a quick turnaround. I believe they said they're targeting a January 1st start date. We'll see if that holds. I could see that getting pushed back just with how
I
this season's been,
I
but
can't.
we'll have to see. Um,
Just a little tidbit. Y'all aren't going to hear much baseball on this podcast because, quite frankly, we don't know what we're talking about.
yeah.
But live in
Well,
Tennessee,
okay. Actually, I am working on that.
yeah,
I got a friend who really knows a lot about baseball.
yeah,
He's the nicest dude I've ever met. He's helped me a lot get opportunities in my professional work field. One of the most knowledgeable guys I've ever met, and he loves the
yeah,
MLB. I'm working on something with him to get a baseball segment added to the show so we can get some love to our baseball fans.
yes.
Uh, there's only
Well,
so much I can watch, and
yeah,
baseball doesn't fit in that.
yes. I love baseball, but as you said, I don't necessarily have the time. Like I watch, and since we live in Tennessee, the closest team to us is obviously the Braves, and they just won 8-7 to go up 2-0 in the National League Championship Series, I believe.
Yep.
So. 8-7, which when we started recording, they were up 8-5, I think. So shout out to them for holding that off. But just wanted to get that little tidbit in there. All right, back to football. Let's do it.
Yes, now that we have put the world or the MLB playoffs behind us, the NBA finals behind us, it is now time to quickly jump into the NCAA football AP top 25 for this previous week and how they fared. So, X, take it away.
All right, here's how this is going to work. I'm just going to read off some of the marquee games that went down. We're going to give our quick thoughts, quick tidbits. Obviously, we can't watch every game. There's so much football going on Saturdays. It's impossible. And then I'm going to go back through, reread the AP top 25, and we'll give our thoughts, and we'll see where everybody shifted. To start off, the number one Clemson Tigers faced the number 7 at the time Miami Hurricanes. Clemson won 42-7. Trevor Lawrence was 29-41, 292 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Alabama beat Ole Miss by a score of 63-48. Glad nobody decided to play defense in that game, but we'll get to that in a second. The number 3 Georgia Bulldogs beat the number 14 Tennessee Volunteers by a score of 44-21. I'm sure Austin will have a lot to say about that. Yeah, so the number 4 Florida Gators lost to the number 21 Texas A&M Aggies. Number 5 Notre Dame, I don't like Notre Dame, beat Florida State, who is currently 1-3. Number 8 North Carolina Tar Heels beat the number 19 Virginia Tech. And just a little quick note, all these rankings are from week 6. The AP Top 25 came out today for week 7, so I'll read it off at the end of the segment. Number 13, Auburn beat Arkansas 30-28 in a nail biter. It was a lot closer game I thought. Shout out to Arkansas for striding. Number 15, BYU beat UTSA by a score of 27-20. The Red River Rivalry, Red River Showdown, whatever you want to call it. Oklahoma beat Texas 53-45 in an absolutely insane game. And number 24, Iowa State beat Texas Tech. And I believe that was everybody that was ranked for this week. I'm sorry if I did not get your team. We're working on that. But that's pretty much everything. Any thoughts, Austin?
Just a few here and there. First, shout out Woody Washington, Oakland, Tennessee product. He had an interception in, I believe it was overtime, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Let me see if I can.
It was either the fourth quarter or overtime, I believe. He's a cornerback for the University of Oklahoma. We went to high school with Woody Washington. X played football with him. I knew him. We had a few conversations. Really nice guy. Happy to see him succeed.
Yes, for sure.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'll keep it short because I could give a whole podcast episode on my thoughts on the University of Tennessee. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
We're just not there yet, and I feel like a lot of things get rushed, especially in today's society. You have to understand the program that Pruitt took over. It was not a good it was a historically bad program.
Yes,
Pruitt inherited the first Tennessee team to never win a conference game in program history, and was one of the oldest college football programs. Georgia, with Kirby Smart, they recruit their behinds off every year, and that showed here. Georgia, you can soundly argue, has the best defense in the entire NCAA, and that showed. The first half we were able to hold up, and then we got gassed. The defense played very good for 3 quarters, and then they just got tired. The offensive line, this Georgia defensive front's insane. They probably have the best front 7 in college football, and that showed. They were able to blow up the line of scrimmage, get to the quarterback. As much as I love to bag on Jared Garantano, and he does have fumbling issues and interception issues, I'm not saying he doesn't. When he doesn't have time to think, much less try to make a play, there's not much he can do. Georgia was just, whether it was the defensive line, whether it was the DB's line, they were just able to get in the backfield all afternoon and completely shut down Tennessee's offense, which just led to Tennessee's defense getting tired.
Yes, I agree. The depth of recruiting definitely showed, especially in the second half, which it's hard in the SEC, man. That Alabama and Georgia have a stranglehold on the best depth in the SEC in their
Yeah,
respective divisions. So there's not much they can do there. Another marquee matchup: Texas A&M beat Florida. Kellen Mond put on an absolute show: 25 of 35, 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. I was very excited to see Jimbo get a win. This program desperately needed a win.
yeah,
Um,
he needed his marquee win at A and
yeah,
M.
Florida, quite frankly, they have a phenomenal offense. I don't think their defense is that good, and I think it showed a lot in this game. I mean, Isaiah Spiller, shout out to Isaiah Spiller, he had 27 carries for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that, yes, the Texas A&M offensive line was killing people, like they were moving the line, blowing people back. But that's in part to do with Florida was not ready to play. So
I think this week showed that in the SEC there are tiers. In your tier one, and I'm not going to go through the whole tier, but you have your Alabama, Georgia, and then there's a gap, and
yes,
you have Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, A&M, and
yes,
then a gap, and then you can feel however you do about the rest. But I think it showed that and this week Alabama and Georgia do play, which should be a phenomenal game.
prime
But
time.
I think it just shows that specifically in Tennessee's case, they've made that jump to get out of the lower tier, but they still have ways to go until they get in the Alabama and Georgia level, and
Yeah,
that's fine. Things are a process. You're not gonna become Alabama and Georgia didn't become that overnight,
no, they did not.
and Florida. I personally, I think Dan Mullins is an overrated coach. I don't think he's that good because when you get the influx of talent that Florida has had under his tenure and you still yet to capitalize on it, I
Hmm.
think it speaks to who you are.
Yes.
And Kirby Smart was on that projection this season. It seems he may have turned that corner. I think the Alabama game will be very telling, but
Yes.
I just think that this week solidified that there are tiers in the SEC and that it's Alabama and Georgia playing with house money and then everybody else.
Yes. Let's throw the Big 12 some love. I watched a majority of this game. Oklahoma beat Texas 53-45. Both Texas and the Oklahoma have 2 losses now. Personally, I don't see the Big 12 getting in the college football playoff now. I just don't see it happening.
They still have three teams that are undefeated.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. I don't see it happening because I think Oklahoma is going to knock some of those teams off. Texas, what do you say about Texas? They're back and then they're not, and they're just, I don't know.
We're back, and they haven't done anything
Keep
since.
the Big 12. Nobody plays defense in a sense, so it's just I don't really know what to say about that. Like Oklahoma won, okay, but they're still 2-2. They're not making the playoffs. Texas won, they're 2-2. Both Oklahoma and Texas are 1-2 in the Big 12 now.
Yeah,
So I we'll see what happens there.
I
Let's
think
circle back to
I just want to add one thing about the Big 12 defense. While that usually
yes,
is a talking point because it is a valid talking point, this season would have been the only season that it isn't because every defense is struggling across the board just because of how
yes,
weird the offseason was.
yes, it is.
Georgia and Arkansas are seemingly the only two teams that have a defense. Clemson, Arkansas, and Georgia are seemingly the only three Power Five teams that have a defense so far. And I think that just plays into how strange this offseason was.
Yes, you see it all around the country because with no spring football, usually what happens in spring football is the defense is miles ahead of the offense because usually defense is a little bit easier. You get to go out there first day spring ball, fly around, hit some people, do what you do, and the offense is majority timing and blocking assignments and such. So the offense is usually behind. I think what you're seeing now is with the pandemic and nobody being able to practice defense and being able to practice tackling, the offenses have had 3-4 weeks for those teams that played now, and they are in rhythm, and the defenses are still trying to find their way because they
Yeah,
didn't have that time prepare, which is it's interesting to see the roles flipped. I think that's part of the reason why you see the scoring in college football and the NFL spike right now. So that's just an interesting note. Speaking of defense, none was played. Alabama beat Ole Miss 63-48. Thoughts, Austin?
Um. All right. So, as a Tennessee fan, I'm supposed to hate Lane Kiffin. I don't.
Yeah,
I think Lane Kiffin is going to do a phenomenal job at turning Ole Miss around. I don't know
I
if he'll ever be able to get over the Saban hump, and that's not a Kiffin diss. That's just the fact that nobody in the SEC has been able to,
yeah, no,
except Orgeron, the one year that Alabama had a down year, which they went 10-2. Um,
yeah,
Kiffin
and
is
not to
showing
mention
once again. Sorry, go ahead.
team, and not to mention Orgeron had a historical team. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. Kiffin is once again showing he's an offensive genius. Um, but at the same time, Saban is showing that you can't out adapt him.
Yes,
Saban is known for his defenses, and while they let up 48 here, I expect that to turn around pretty quickly.
I
And the
do too.
fact that they were able to drop 63 and win a shootout shows that Saban knows how to adapt at the times.
Yes, Najee Harris had 5 touchdowns. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what does. I feel like I've been watching Najee Harris run the ball for Alabama for 3 years now,
Yeah.
and the dude's still there and has 5 touchdowns. Not to mention Mac Jones, who was, am I reading this right? 28 of 32, 417 yards, excuse me, and 2 touchdowns. So I Saturday night's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday night's going to be a lot of fun. Alabama and Georgia. Yes, they both scored a lot of points last week. Is it a mistake in me saying I expecting this to be a defensive game?
No, because I completely agree with that because it's going to be a chess match. They're going to be trying to feel each other out for the majority of the game. With Georgia's defense and how Saban runs things, I fully
Yeah,
expect this to be just punch, just a fist fight in the trenches.
yeah, me too. Let's cap it off with the top-ranked Clemson Tigers. They beat Miami, the U, 42-17. ETN had 17 carries, 149 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Um, so Clemson's once again. I'm not gonna sit here and say Miami isn't back
Yeah,
because Clemson is just that good.
yes, they are.
The talking point that I want to get to in the ACC, Clemson may not be alone on top, and hear me out. So obviously Notre Dame joined the ACC this season.
Yes, they did.
They are what are they ranked?
They are in this week's AP poll. They are number 4.
Yeah, okay, so they're number 4, and I know later in the season, Notre Dame and Clemson play each other, and everybody presumes that whoever wins that game will be the winner of the ACC. But X, go ahead and tell me who's number 5 in this week's AP poll.
North Carolina.
The North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yes,
I believe Mac Brown is back coaching
I
there.
am all in on North Carolina. We'll get to that in a second, though. I've loved Mac Brown since he was at Texas. I'm all in on North Carolina, but go ahead.
Uh, Clemson, this season, this is the most competitive the ACC's been during Clemson's reign of terror.
Yes,
Because
it
Notre
is.
Dame's here and North Carolina's here. North Carolina, they won that 56-30 or 40 something shootout with Virginia Tech. They can
Yes.
put up points. Clemson can put up points, and Mac Brown is a great coach. He's
Yes.
had success in the past. I think this is the most successful North Carolina's been in football since the last time he was at North Carolina. He's come
Yes.
back. He's got his program turned around. And Clemson better watch out because while they've got all the talent in the world, there's rumors that Houston's going to try to go for Dabo. The Houston Texans are going to try to get Dabo Swinney as head coach. Trevor Lawrence is going to go pro. The running back's going to go pro. They better keep their eye on the ball here, which is the national championship, because if they don't, Notre Dame or North Carolina could very easily come in and take that chance from them.
I agree. This is why I love the all conference schedule. because it forces Notre Dame, who has always thought they're special, to join a conference to be able to contend for a championship. And yes, that was a knock on Notre Dame. I'm just going to be honest. I've never liked Notre Dame. Never have, never will.
Yeah, he
So
never has. As long as I've
that's
known him, he's never liked Notre Dame.
that's just that. So North Carolina, it's like you said, North Carolina is there, Miami's there to challenge them some, even though they just lost. Like they're the Clemson Tigers are still the best team in college football, I believe, right up there with Alabama. But it's like Austin said, everybody has a slip up game, especially in these all conference seasons. Everybody. And I tell you right now, if Clemson comes in flat against North Carolina or against Notre Dame, it could be a long day. I'm not saying it's going to be because I'm still going to pick Clemson go undefeated, but it could be a long day. It really could be. Sam Howell is a legit NFL prospect playing quarterback for the Tar Heels. I'm not going to lie, I don't know much else about their team, but I watched some of the games Saturday and they look pretty dang good. So Notre Dame, I haven't watched any Notre Dame this year. I can't lie. So they look decent. They don't look bad at all.
Yeah, yeah. So, with that said, do you want to get into this week's top 25?
Yes, sir. Here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to read the top 25 from top to bottom, and we will give our quick hot takes, and then we will move on in the show. Number one, Clemson Tigers. Number two, Alabama. Three, Georgia. Four, Notre Dame. Five, North Carolina. Six, Ohio State. Don't ask me how. Seven, Oklahoma State. Eight, Cincinnati. Nine, Penn State. 10, Florida. 11, Texas A&M. 12, Oregon. 13, Miami, Florida. 14 BYU, 15 Auburn, 16 Wisconsin, 17 SMU, 18 Tennessee, 19 Michigan, 20 Iowa State, 21 Louisiana Lafayette, 22 Kansas State, 23 Virginia Tech, 24 Minnesota, and 25 the University of Southern California.
Okay, USC. Wow.
Yeah.
So the biggest takeaway that I had from this week's rankings has nothing to do with the 25 teams that are ranked.
Yeah.
It's the two teams in my mind that aren't ranked. The
Yes.
University of Oklahoma and LSU.
Yes.
If you would have said preseason that these two teams were not going to be top 25 halfway into the season, I would have called you a dirty liar.
Yes. The two teams that dropped out of the rankings this week were LSU and Texas. They dropped out of the AP top 25 this week.
Yes, so Oklahoma had been out, and then LSU dropped this week with the loss to Missouri.
Yes.
And, I feel that they were really fair to Tennessee, in my opinion. I think they recognized that while there is that gap, they're still a quality team.
Yes, I agree.
And that defense is still good because that defense held Georgia for 3 quarters.
Yes.
And then just ran out of gas. So I think they were fair to Tennessee.
Yes.
I can't believe it. It doesn't sound right that North Carolina's top 5. They don't get me. They absolutely deserve it. Don't get me wrong. It's just growing up, they've always been a basketball powerhouse. It'd be like if Kentucky was top 5.
Yes. Like when I hear North Carolina, I think, okay, it's a January afternoon, it's cold outside, and it's 6 p.m. and here comes Duke of North Carolina in the greatest basketball rivalry ever, in my opinion. So, that's that. I agree with the point on them being fair. Like Virginia Tech dropped from 19 to 23 when they lost to North Carolina. I appreciate the fact of them being fair to teams who lose to quality opponents. I think that needs to be brought up right now. Now, of course, none of this matters when the college football playoff rankings drop. Once those drop, we'll go off of those, of course.
Yeah, when Tennessee gets put number 1.
Yes, my biggest talking point, though, wants to be why are we ranking teams that haven't played yet? Don't get me wrong. I don't like Ohio State, but they're top 2 or 3 when they start playing. Like Penn State, they're right up there. They're not top 2 or 3, but they're top 10 when they start playing, but they haven't played yet.
I see the reason why they do it. Because
I don't agree with it.
You saw the first couple of weeks when Pac-12 and Big Ten teams were not in the top 25 because they weren't going to have a season. you
Yes.
had a lot of garbage in the top 25,
Yes.
and it diminished the credibility of the top
Yeah.
25. Whereas
It,
now that the Pac 12 and the Big Ten have committed to playing football and they will be playing, they can confidently put them in knowing that eventually they will play. It's the same reason why, like, when a team has a bye week, you usually don't see them drop or you don't see them fall out of the rankings.
yes.
You know, they're doing it to keep the overall credibility and quality of the top 25, and I get why they do it.
I get why they do it. I just wish they like. Don't get me wrong. If they took Ohio State, Penn State, etc., even the Pac-12 teams like USC who haven't played yet out, and then as soon as they play that first game, put them back in, I would feel a lot better about it. But like you said, I understand why they do it from a business standpoint, just to make things look better. But I can't
Because
give it to a player that
the
hasn't played.
the issue with that is, say they take them out and move everybody up, and say, like, Tennessee, for example, say they move up from like 18 to 9 and they don't lose any games, and
Yeah,
then you add the Big Ten and the Pac 12 teams back, what are you going to do?
yeah,
Drop Tennessee?
yeah.
You
I
know,
understand. It's a valid point. I just, off the top of my head, I don't feel right about it, but I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with it at all.
yeah. That's what, like, I understand why people would have issues with it, but at the same time, I understand why AP does it because they
Yes,
just got to protect themselves.
I'm very interested to see how the playoff committee is going to rank the top four because obviously with the all conference schedule, I don't know what they're going to do because it's always interesting to see because there's always the top three that you know are going to be there. For example, your Clemson's, your Alabamas, your Georgias usually, but they play. So I don't know if how much they're going to discredit that one loss, even though the AP poll has been really fair to a lot of people. Like your Notre Dame's, your North Carolina's, your Ohio State's when they start playing, I want to see what the committee does because just hypothetically, say Georgia beats Alabama, but they only win by a point. If the
You
rank
can't, you can't drop Alabama that low.
exactly,
Can
so
flip Bama and Georgia 2 and 3, but
and it's because the North on Clemson in the year past with the playoff has been, oh, they don't play anybody. Well, they have North Carolina, Notre Dame this year. So if they deserve to be number one, are you going to put them at number three this year because of their competition? I don't think you can because they play people this year.
yeah, and Pac 12 and Big Ten have shorter seasons than the
Yeah,
other three conferences, but can you necessarily punish them for trying to create a safety plan during a pandemic?
I don't think you can.
I mean, I
I
don't
would
think you can, but at the same, now, while schedule length, I don't think should punish them.
no.
Quality of conference should absolutely come into play. Because
Yes.
I'm sorry, but a one-loss ACC team or a one-loss SEC team has more credibility than a zero-loss Pac-12 or Big 12 team to me. That's just,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Like Big Ten has competition, so, like, I value a one-loss Big Ten team as well. But the issue with that is, while, say, Georgia and Alabama play, and say Alabama loses, a one-loss Alabama team, in all likelihood, is probably a better football team than an undefeated Pac-12 or Big 12 team. The
Yes.
issue is, what more is a Pac-12 and Big 12 team supposed to do? You can
Yes.
only play who's on your schedule.
Yes.
And if they
That
win all those games, you can't punish them for that. They weren't allowed to have out of conference opponents.
yes. This is my biggest issue with the playoff. Because correct me if I'm wrong, is this not what the playoff was supposed to fix? You were supposed to get the top four teams, and because
Well, see, that's the thing. There's always more than four top teams in the
that,
NCAA. This year is a perfect example of why it needs to be expanded.
yes, that's what I was getting at. Because even growing up, you are the 1 and 2 face in the BCS championship. It was all fine and good, but then you always had the third team looking out. That's like, hey, I'm undefeated too. It's not my fault they didn't vote for me.
Yeah,
So uh, I'm a big advocate for they need to expand the playoff. I'd like to see 8, maybe even 10 teams, like the 10th, the ninth, and 10th team play a wild card game the week before. I would love to see that, but and you give the number one seed a bye. But I would like to see them expand on it because I feel like the playoff will have a lot more credibility if because there's always top four. Okay, the top three are usually set in stone. The fourth is always a wild card, but give 5 through 8 or 9 a chance. Like
I Without diving into too much detail, I would do top 8, and I would take the Power 5 conference winners,
Yeah.
and then the 3 at-large teams, whether that's a
Yeah.
Power 5, Group of 5, Independent, whatever.
Yes.
If you win your conference, you should be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because you ultimately achieved the goal, which is to win your conference.
Yes. I just think I wish they would do two different brackets, but they won't because then we get into the issue of everybody who wins their conference makes it. Like we go to a school that's in the CUSA and they don't need to be in playoffs because quite frankly they can't compete with the top 8 teams in the nation. So it just gets to the point to where do you draw the line? But you want to be fair to everybody
Power 5.
who is valued like valiantly competing
Yeah,
for
I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, absolutely, like, no disrespect to the Conference USA, no disrespect to them, but you take the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC. You take
yeah.
those 5 winners, and then you take your 3 at-large teams, which, in all likelihood, are probably still going to be Power 5 teams.
Yes.
No disrespect to UCF or no, I mean full disrespect to Memphis. I don't like Memphis. Full disrespect to them. Um, you know, you take your Power 5 winners and then your 3 at-large teams, and in all likelihood, all 3 of those at-large teams could probably be SEC teams,
Yeah.
which
I
then would create another issue.
I think it's
They're
going to
going to
be.
run into issues either way.
Yes, they are, and no matter what they do, there's always going to be a debate. That's why we get to do this podcast. So,
Yeah, like,
I
I'm always going to sit here and say number 24 Tennessee should be in the playoffs. I don't see why not.
yeah. So it's an interesting talking point. I'm sure in the off season we will get to dive into all kinds of beautiful debate topics. But for now, we got content, so we're going to roll with it. We got games.
And jumping from one football league to the other, we are headed over to the NFL for a Week 5 recap.
Oh, what a
So,
glorious week it was!
Week 5 opened up Thursday Night Football, Chicago Bears, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which saw Tom Brady forget what down it is on the potential game-winning drive, which saw Chicago take a 20-19 win. Then, on to Sunday, the Houston Texans picked up their first win of the season by defeating the Jacksonville Jaguars 30-14. The Las Vegas Raiders gave the Chiefs their first loss since November of 2019, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs by a score of 40-32. The Baltimore Ravens pretty much ran over the Cincinnati Bengals 27-3. The Carolina Panthers were able to put the final nail in Dan Quinn's coffin by defeating the Falcons 23-16. The Falcons are 0-5. The Pittsburgh Steelers were able to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles 38-29. Pittsburgh's defense was extremely active against Carson Wentz, but Clayton Chase-Pool, is that his first name?
Oh, we're gonna find out. Give me just a second.
I
I think
believe
it. I think it. I think it's Chase Claypool, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm dyslexic. I probably did get it wrong.
It's okay. Give me a second. You know how Xfinity is. They don't want anything to load.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Xfinity.
it is Chase Claypool.
Chase Claypool had 4 touchdowns for Pittsburgh as they lit up the Eagles. The Arizona Cardinals beat the New York Jets 30-10. The Los Angeles Rams defeated the Washington Football Team 30-10. The Rams as a team sacked Alex Smith 6 times, which shout out Alex Smith, the fact that he was able to play a competitive football game again
Absolutely
after a
phenomenal.
gruesome injury. Mad respect for him. Aaron Donald, though, had 4 sacks and gave that man a piggyback ride, his first down back in the NFL.
Yes.
So, Aaron Donald tried to re-end his career as soon as it started. The Rams were able to win 30-10. Moving to the afternoon games, the Miami Dolphins defeated the San Francisco 49ers 43-17. I believe Fitzmagic threw for 395 and 3 touchdowns. Jimmy Garoppolo got benched in this game. That shows issues in San Francisco because he is on a massive contract.
Yes, he is.
And that screams issues in San Francisco. To say they're going through a post Super Bowl hangover would be an understatement.
Yes, and to be fair to the 49ers, everybody on their roster is hurt for the most part. So really, it's a bummer for them. But I don't know, man. Jimmy G is on a huge deal, and you just benched him. I don't know, man.
We them boys, the Dallas Cowboys, defeated the New York Giants 37-34 via game-winning field goal. We joke about the Cowboys a lot here.
Yes, we
Prayers up for Dak Prescott. That was a
yeah,
gruesome injury.
just
He was
yeah.
having a phenomenal season, great numbers. Obviously they weren't necessarily translating to wins, but he was doing what he could.
Yes, I just want to. Great point. I wanted to make that abundantly clear. Yes, I hate on the Cowboys a lot, but that's as a team, and it's mostly because of their fans. I can't stand Cowboys
And Jerry
fans.
Jones.
Yeah, the whole like we have a well, I'm not going to name. We have a certain friend who is a Cowboys fan, and he's never seen the Cowboys do anything because last time they won a Super Bowl, he wasn't thought of yet, and we give him crap about that all the time.
Yeah, don't
So
tell me to count them rings. You know who you are.
yeah, it's just that part of it that I don't understand. But I would never wish that on anybody. Mad respect, mad love to Dak Prescott. That dude has been through so much this year. I wouldn't wish that injury upon anybody. I would never wish anybody to get hurt. But with that said, we still them boys, so we can move on.
And I won't get it, but they should have paid that man his money, and that's why he
Yes,
wanted that long-term deal. Because
yes, they
now he has a fractured ankle, and he's on a freaking franchise tag.
yes, he is. And now he has to rehab and he has to prove again that he can play before Jerry Jones can consider giving him a contract. And he's out
Shame
here.
on shame on you, Jerry Jones. You should have given that man his money.
Yes, 100% agree.
Because you didn't hesitate to give DeMarcus Lawrence his money. What's he done?
No. And
Alden Smith came from probation and is outperforming DeMarcus Lawrence, who's
yeah,
on a mega deal.
shout out to him, though.
Yeah,
I,
shout out Alden Smith. I'm glad he turned it around.
yes, dudes that turn their life around, much respect. Much respect.
Speaking of dudes that turn their lives around, the Cleveland Browns defeated the Indianapolis Colts 32-23. Kareem Hunt has taken over as the lead back with the injury to Nick Chubb, and he's picking up right where he's left off in Kansas City. Obviously,
Yes,
he had the incident, but the commentators were talking about it on Sunday that he's really turned things around and he's impressed everybody in the Cleveland organization with how he lives his life now. Um,
yes,
I don't follow the Browns, so I'm just going to take their word for it, but I'm proud of him for doing that.
yes,
We all have demons and downs that we struggle with, and anytime somebody can overcome those to become a better person, I will always cheer that on.
yes, for sure.
Phillip Rivers looks like Phillip Rivers, aka Terrible. The same Terrible Rivers he's been for the last 3 years. I don't know why Indy gave him a 1 year, $25 million contract. He obviously didn't deserve it, and I'd argue that he's not better than Jacoby Brissett. Not that Jacoby Brissett's good,
Uh,
but Rivers got picked off. I know he threw a pick six. I think he threw, what, two or three interceptions?
yeah, and he threw an intentional grounding out of the
Yeah,
back, which was terrible.
which was a
Like,
safety.
yeah, there's the dude sitting there trying to plead his case, and there's nobody within 15 yards of the ball, and the refs looking at him like, Philip, get out my face. So,
Baker Mayfield took some shots to the ribs uh, by Justin Houston. He's a little shaken up. They said he was going to get X-rays, but he should be good to go to play Pittsburgh this week.
yeah,
I'll say at this point, at one point in the second half, it seemed Phillip Rivers and Baker Mayfield were playing a game of who wants to lose the game more,
yes.
because they were both just turning the ball over left and right.
Yes. For
It was
those fans who
awful.
don't know, in our market, we didn't get the Cowboys Giants game that was on CBS. We got the Colts game because we live in the AFC South division. So we got the Colts Browns game, which we watched, I assume.
Yeah. But the Browns, they are what, 3-1?
They are 4-1.
4-1, 4-1. Sorry, but the Titans had a week off, so that's kind
Yes.
of thrown everything off for me. The Browns
Yes.
are 4-1. Is their best start since 1994 when Bill Belichick was their head coach and Nick Saban was their defensive coordinator.
Dude, you want to talk about letting two dudes get away.
Yeah. After that, we had Sunday Night Football, which saw the Seattle Seahawks beat the Minnesota Vikings 27-26. The first half of this game, you could have told me the Vikings were playing an XFL team. The
Yeah.
Seahawks were absolutely dead coming out of the gate, and then all of a sudden just flipped the switch, like
Yeah.
TikTok challenge, flipped the switch. Not
Yeah.
that I'm on, I don't do TikTok.
Yeah.
As my professor said, he's a grouchy old man who hates TikTok, and I've never related to his statement more.
Shout out Dr. Bacon for
Yeah,
sure.
shout out, Dr. Bacon. Um, Seattle in the second half, Russell Wilson came back and did Russell Wilson things. Well, actually, Kirk Cousins started doing Kirk Cousins things first by throwing picks, and
Yeah.
yeah, Russ drove down the field and uh, game threw the game-winning touchdown. After the game, said he felt like Sue Bird. Shout out WNBA Seattle legend. That was extremely cool of Russ to do that. He didn't have to do that, and he did. That was dope.
That is phenomenal.
But Seattle took the win 27-26. Russell Wilson still leading the MVP vote to me at this point in the season.
No, I don't think I
I don't think you can argue anybody else.
I don't think you could argue Dak before he got hurt, but not now.
But I see. I wouldn't even argue that because they didn't have the wins. Seattle has
Yeah,
the record; they're 5-0.
that's
Because
my
whether
big
they want to or not, that plays into MVP voting.
it 110% does. But that's my biggest problem with MVP. It's my biggest problem with Finals MVP too. Like the MVP is supposed to be the most valuable player for a certain team.
Yeah,
If the team is losing, it doesn't mean that, like for example, Cowboys. Dak Prescott was tearing it up. That doesn't mean he can't play defense to help his team win. So it 110% ties into it, and that's how it's always been. It'll never change. But I wish they would separate that in a way. But
yeah.
that's just
So what was supposed to be a doubleheader on Monday, Denver and New England got pushed to Week 6. So we only had the one original Monday Night Football game, which was the Los Angeles Chargers playing the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. The Saints ended up winning this game 30-27, but I'll tell you whose fault this Chargers loss wasn't, and that was Justin Herbert.
it was
This
not.
dude balled out.
Yes, he did.
He became the first rookie to throw 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, and he was tearing that Chiefs defense up. Or not
Yep, he was.
the Saints. He was tearing that Saints defense up.
Yes.
Pardon me, I'm dyslexic, and I took my sleep medicine, so my brain's a little fried. Drew Brees, for the majority of the game, looked like a washed-up dumb midget, because he is. He should have just hung him up, because he's not good. The big storyline heading into this game was Michael Thomas got benched for this game, and not because he was hurt, it's because he punched his teammate in the face in a fight during practice.
I'm gonna tie this in and make a nice little segue out of it. Going back to the Cleveland Browns, I sat here when the Browns drafted Baker Mayfield, and you can ask our whole friend group. Yeah, you could definitely ask Austin. I told him, I said, the Browns will never win with Baker Mayfield unless he learns how to be quiet. And as we saw, his first couple years, he talked a lot. They didn't have a head coach because Freddie Kitchens was an absolute joke, and they didn't win. And now you get Stefanski in there. They run the ball. Baker is quiet as can be, besides his commercials, which I'm never going to hate on a man getting his money. Get your money doing his commercials. You don't hear Baker talk smack. You don't hear Baker do anything in the media that's causing storylines. Nothing, and they're 4-1.
Yeah.
4-1. And then you have the Saints, who are 3-2, supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, and your star wide receiver, who broke records last year, is punching teammates in practice. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Serious? Like
And
you
then
are.
they said he was getting into it with coaches too.
I'm sure he was. I don't doubt it.
Kids, can we say Antonio Brown Jr.?
Dude, don't even get me started on Antonio
Because
Brown.
that's exactly where MT's headed. And I
I
hate to
just
say it.
I
Actually,
don't
not
under
really. I call it how it is.
I don't understand why receivers do this more than any other position. You just had arguably the greatest season in NFL history, and you're gonna fight your teammate at practice. Like, don't get me wrong, I played football in high school. Dudes are gonna fight,
Man,
but
he called me slant boy.
it's just like, really, you're in the middle of a season going to play the game. You know how much you mean to your team, and you just I'll never understand it. Never I'll understand it. And what makes it worse is, look, yes, I'm on Twitter. Austin's a lot more active on Twitter than I am.
Yeah, I'll be in Twitter. I'll be
Yeah,
tweeting that.
I don't tweet stuff. I just look at the news and stuff on Twitter. And obviously, I'm a huge sports guy, so I read all the sports stuff. But Michael Thomas, get off of Twitter, dog. Get off of Twitter.
So the Saints were able to pull that out in overtime, 30-27, and then that led us to the best game of the week, one of the best games in NFL history, Tuesday Night Football, the Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills. All I heard all week, oh, Tennessee ain't practicing in 15 days. They're sorry. Buffalo 4-0. Josh Allen MVP. Buffalo them boys. We here. We do that. Tennessee Titans 42, Buffalo Bills 16. 16
Boom.
days without practice, 16 days without games, and this is all Buffalo can do? We was on Zoom talking about playbooks. Y'all was
Yeah.
in practice, playing games, and this is all y'all had?
Yeah.
This is all y'all had?
Hey, man, look.
Uh,
Now, I'm going to bask in my glory. The Bills had a very rough night. Part of it was due to the Titans' defense, and part of it was due to a lot of drop passes. But to be fair to the Titans, the Bills had practice, Titans didn't. So there's no,
exactly.
in my opinion.
So to give a little insight into the game as what it was looking like pregame, Buffalo's inactives were wide receiver John Brown, quarterback Jake Fromm, cornerback Tre'Davious White, running
Huge.
back Zach Moss, tight end Lee Smith, linebacker Matt Milano, and guard Quentin Spain. So Milano, Brown, White were all huge losses to
Yeah.
that Bills team, obviously, and I'm not going to discredit that. However, here's what the Titans are dealing with. So our inactives were outside linebacker Korea, who was just activated. He was activated today from the COVID-19 list, but he hadn't been able to practice at all. So we didn't, him and cornerback Kristen Fulton, we did not want to risk injury to them, which was the right move by Coach Vrabel.
110% agree.
Carrick Robinson, linebacker, and Daniel Munier, offensive line, were both inactive. Isaiah Wilson is still technically not on the roster yet. He will join the roster tomorrow morning. The NFL had created a special exception for Wilson as far as like his roster status. So he will be added to the official 53-man roster tomorrow. I believe that was per Paul Kaharski, I believe.
Yes,
Um,
shot Karski.
Tennessee COVID-19 reserve list: wide receiver Corey Davis, wide
Starter.
receiver Adam Humphries, wide
Starter.
receiver Cameron Bateson, fullback
Starter.
Blasingame.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he is our starting fullback. He was a University of Vanderbilt product. He's our starting fullback. Tight end Nicole Pruitt, who I don't know if he starts, but he plays a lot of snaps for the
We practice
Titans.
because we run a lot of two tight end sets.
Yeah. And probably the biggest COVID-19 member. I didn't necessarily mean weight wise, I meant value wise, but weight wise it would be too. Defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons.
Rising superstar, to put it like.
To be, and on IR we had Senorize Perry, the running back,
Yes.
Dane Cruikshank, DB,
Yeah.
and Adoree Jackson, cornerback.
Yes. Who
Um,
as well. So
when we got the clear for to play the Buffalo game, and I saw we weren't gonna have Jeffrey Simmons or Fulton or Adoree, I fully expected to lose.
me too.
I fully expected to come out here, and here's the reason why. The Buffalo Bills offense, before going into this game, was averaging 30.8 points per game, which was the fifth highest in the NFL. And they were averaging 409.8 yards per game, which was the third highest in the NFL. The Titans' defense, on the other hand, was allowing 24.7 points per game, which was 14th in the NFL, and 422.3 yards per game, which was 30th, which means second or third to worst in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked at that, I thought, oh my God, they're gonna throw all over us because the Bills were averaging 316 passing yards per game. They were second in the NFL in passing yards per game. The Titans were letting up 256 a game, which was 23rd in the league, which is bottom half of the league. I was like, good God, they're gonna run us out of Nissan Stadium. I'm gonna have to hear Bills Mafia on Twitter going crazy, talking about some we do that. Still butthurt that they lost the Music City Miracle back in 1990. Get over it. It's been over 20 years. Get over it.
I'll never get over it. I love
Oh, I
that.
mean, yeah, we're Titans fans. We don't have to get over it, but they do. I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing Buffalo Bills fans in my mentions talking about it was a forward pass. It was
It
not a forward pass.
was.
But yeah, fully going into this game, I thought Buffalo because they had an average defense. They had a top 10 rushing defense, which scared me because the Titans had a top 10 rushing offense, and the run is huge for us. That's a huge component of our game. So while Buffalo's pass defense was bottom of the league, which does help because we have been able to modernize our offense under Arthur Smith, it did concern me that the Bills had this pass heavy offense, and we were missing our secondary. We were missing Big Simmons, Big Jeff up in the middle, and we had gone 16 days without playing football. So I'll end this rant here and let X give his thoughts pregame. But I was absolutely nervous pregame, and I thought we were going to get blown out on national television.
I was very nervous for the secondary, and Jeffrey Simmons not being there hurt me. I thought it was going to hurt us a lot because for those of you who don't know, the Titans run a 3-4. They really run a lot. They run a variation of 3-4, nickel, dime, 4-3, all that stuff. They took because Rabel is from New England, so they run New England's defense for the most part. But Simmons is in the middle 90% of the time. So he's opposite of Daquan Jones, who is our starting nose tackle, I believe. So that I thought that was going to play into a lot more than it did. Um, it really, but the one thing I've learned about the Titans under Vrabel is they always have a game plan. They know what they want to do, and 90% of the time they execute it. So
Yeah.
I think it showed very well tonight how good of a coach Vrabel is, how good of an organization the Titans have right now, and just the maturity of the team. Because whether you want to admit it or not, the Bills they have a young core. They have veterans around everybody, of course, but the Titans are veterans. They've been here before. They've done this. Obviously, nobody's been here before because it's the middle of a pandemic. This is the first Tuesday night game in forever. So I pregame, yes, I was nervous for secondary. The sooner we get Adoree back, the sooner we get Fulton back, we will be 10 times better in the secondary. It's no offense to the guys out there. It's just Adoree's been a starter in this league for what, 5, 6 years now.
Yeah.
And Fulton is a rookie with a very, very high ceiling, who I think is going to take Butler's spot whenever Butler regresses or retires.
I
So
think this is only Dory's fourth year
yeah, it might be
because we
honestly.
we picked up his fifth year option because we drafted him in 2017 with Davis.
That's very true. Time flies. Thank you for correcting me on that. So it's just nervous, yes. Concerned, uh, not necessarily, but I definitely get where you're coming from. I definitely have those thoughts in the back of my mind where it's like this could happen, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, like I'm sitting at work looking at my watch, and it's 5:15. I'm like, can I please get off? I gotta go home and watch the game. So
And you got to understand, I'm a Tennessee fan, so it's hard for me to ever get my hopes up
yeah,
because I'm used to them being crushed.
yes,
But as soon as this game started, my doubts were erased by
you
Malcolm
knew
Butler.
you knew how the game was going to go as soon as the game started. Josh Allen throws an absolute laser into the chest to the receiver. I don't remember who it is, and all you see is the ball fly. And there's Malcolm Butler with the pick,
Yep.
and I'm going crazy in my room. My family's going crazy, and it was a phenomenal night from there on out.
Yeah, Malcolm Butler had two interceptions. One he almost returned for a touchdown. The
Yes, and
return scared the mess out of me.
yes, the first one should have been a catch, but you take what you can get. It's still an interception. I don't care what you say, Bills fans. It's an interception. And the second one, he absolutely baited Josh Allen. There's
Yeah,
no other way. He absolutely baited
that's
Josh
what
Allen.
Butler post game said that on that play he made Allen think the defense was something that it wasn't.
Yes, and Allen just threw him the ball, and he almost took a 6 and almost messed his knee up. But that's for another conversation.
Yeah,
So shout out Malcolm Butler because that dude had a rough week last week against Justin Jefferson, and he's made up for it
yeah,
tonight.
that's one
Made
way to
up
put
for
it.
it tonight. Which the Titans are in a tough spot with their secondary because they have to run man because they don't have the personnel to run zone right now. And the Titans are not a big man-to-man team anyways. They run a lot of man, but they are not great at it. And it showed, man. My biggest takeaway from the game was the Titans can win without Derrick Henry going absolutely ballistic.
Yep, I agree. Tannehill can win football games, which I've
Yes,
always felt that way, but now it's being proved on a national level.
yes, I have too, but it's being proved on a national media level, and it brings joy to my heart because all you see in the Twitter replies or on like social media or TV is Tannehill ain't gonna win the game. They're gonna have to rely on Derrick. Derrick Henry had 19 carries, 57 yards, two touchdowns. He averaged 3 yards a carry today. As also said, the Bills have a phenomenal run defense, and they obviously did what they wanted to do with Derrick. Yes, he had two touchdowns. One he ran in from a yard out, which, look, I love Derrick Henry. Biggest Derrick Henry fan you'll ever meet. The dude got his money. Very glad that he did. Love him to death. But my thing is, it's a long season. The less carries we give him now, the more we can give him later.
Yeah, because
And
we wore him out the first couple weeks. So now that we've had this 16-day break and he only had 19 carries this game,
yes, and we play Houston Sunday. So
and
he's
Houston's
going,
a garbage fire.
going to get some more touches then. Derek, like you could see, Derek was a little frustrated tonight because Buffalo's run defense always gives them problems, and the offensive line. Obviously, Buffalo's run defense is stellar, so the offensive line had trouble, especially with Lawan going in and out. So it just proved to me that the Titans can win without Derrick Henry going off, and it's nothing
Yeah,
against Derrick. Of course, with Derrick going off, we win 99% of the time. And I love Derrick. I hope Derrick rushes for 150 yards every single game. But it's just the fact that teams are going to key on him. Every team that's played the Titans this year has had 8 people in the box for a majority of the game, and we're 4-0.
yeah,
So,
and because Tannehill's made him pay.
yeah,
And I think while the offensive line was getting pushed off the ball for the majority of the game, and the pass rush on the defense side of the ball wasn't showing up, the defensive and the offensive line were probably the two positions that were hit the worst by this break because
yes,
there's not much you can do
no.
to practice or be ready other than live reps.
Yes, there's not. Like Tannehill was 21 for 28. He only had 195 yards passing, but he threw for three touchdowns.
And
And
had
he ran,
zero turnovers.
yeah, and he ran for another one.
Yeah.
So don't come at me talking about some Tannehill can't win games because he can.
And what you saw is Tannehill he threw for the three touchdowns, two of which were to Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith had 5 receptions and 40 yards with the two touchdowns. Jonnu
Yes.
Smith now sits at 5 receiving touchdowns this season through
Yeah.
through 4 games. He already has more touchdowns this season than he's ever had in a season before.
Yeah,
And
for
we're
sure.
only 4 games into the season. So
Yes.
Jonnu is stepping right up and taking over for Delaney Walker, who Titans legend, always gonna have love for Delaney, but
Well,
Jonnu is stepping up and taking that next step.
yes.
And AJ Brown, this was his
Yeah.
first game back since the Denver game. He was having a knee bruise or a knee bone bruise issue. He
Yeah.
had 7 receptions for 82 yards and a touchdown. He, along with Derek, absolutely abused Josh Norman tonight.
Dude.
Derrick Henry probably
Um,
made Josh Norman think about retiring at halftime.
how do we put this in
We
like
can't even put it into words. You
I
have
don't
to go find the video.
it's like
Derek threw
every,
Norman across his body, off his feet, into the dirt.
yeah, I don't really know how to describe it. I guess the best way I can off the top of my head is everybody's played Fortnite. You know how you hit the launch pad? I
Yeah,
Derek pretty much made Norman hit the launch pad, but instead of going up, Norman went sideways into the
yeah.
ground. So if you haven't seen the video, please go watch it. It brought a lot of joy to my heart. But I'm a Titans fan, so it should have. And that's why Derrick Henry is what he is. And that's why he got paid. The
Yeah.
dude's phenomenal at what he does, and there's no way around it.
Um, what really showed this game is what makes the Titans the Titans. They forced, I believe it was three turnovers. Josh Allen threw two interceptions, and they forced a fumble on a kickoff. They forced three turnovers, and while Allen was 26 of 41, 263 yards, he did have two touchdowns. One of which came on a play to where the pass rush just could not get back there at all. Because
Yeah.
our defensive line, not only did they have the 16-day break, we have Derek Robinson, who was inactive, and Jeffrey Simmons is still on the COVID-19 list.
Yeah.
And I didn't see Vic Beasley's name at all tonight. He didn't really. I don't even know if he played, and if he did, he
He did.
didn't. He did not.
Yes, he played. He had a
Yeah.
tackle, and I'd like to throw this out there about Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley before you get going. You might have touched on this too, but people forget that we didn't have a preseason, and this was a Titans' fourth game, and they had a 16-day break. Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley are both great pass rushers, but you can argue Clowney is a better run defender than a pass rusher, but that's for another conversation. They're not in shape. It's one thing you can run on a treadmill all day, you can lift all the weights you want. But until you get back in pads and you play an NFL game, I've never played in the NFL, but I played high school football. I know it doesn't match up. But until you get in a game, there's a difference between being in shape on a treadmill and being in shape running miles and lifting weights and then playing a 60-minute game,
Yeah.
possibly playing 60, 70 snaps a game.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion and my 2 cents.
And I'm not upset with Clowney for not being in football shape because he didn't sign until like the week before our first game. So he has a reason. Ain't nobody made Vic Beasley sit at home and miss the condensed training camp that we had.
No.
Beasley brought
I
that on himself.
The Titans got a lot of pressure tonight. They just couldn't get home. One, because Allen is a great
He's a
athlete,
magician. He's so hard to bring down.
and two, they're just not there yet with the time wise. Because the thing with
Yeah.
Josh Allen, you got to play him like Mahomes. You got to keep him in the pocket. If he reaches from the pocket, so be it. So, and Allen was just getting out and doing whatever he
You
did.
can't let him break contain.
Shout out Harold Landry. We don't give Landry enough love. The dude is a stud. He is our starting outside linebacker opposite of Clowney. He is a absolute stud. He doesn't get enough love because obviously Clowney's here and now Vic Beasley is here now. But that dude can do it all. He intercepts passes. He stops the run. He had a sack tonight. The dude does it all. Much love to the homie Harold Landry.
Yeah, and uh, on the play where we couldn't get pressure, he had Allen had all day to throw and just threw a
Yeah.
laser to T.J. Yeldon in the back of the end zone. But the Titans did what they do. So earlier when I talked about our defense, we allow so our run defense was 31st in the league, but we did a really good job of shutting Devin Singletary down. The boys came to play on the
Yeah.
run today. I will absolutely give them that. And our defense overall was 30th in the league, but our points we were 14th. And that's what the Titans are the embodiment of. We are the embodiment of bend, don't break. So we let Allen throw the ball 41 times, and he got 263 yards. And Stephon Diggs had 10 receptions for 106 yards. But we made Allen turn the ball over twice, and we kept Diggs out of the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the Titans win football games, because they'll give you we talk about this all the time. They'll give you anything between the 20s.
Yes, they
But
will.
once you hit the 20, once you get in the red zone, they lock up. They either hold you to 3 or force a turnover. And
Yeah.
that's why the Titans are 4-0 and in the position that they are.
The
Because that's the
Titans,
brand of they play winning football.
yes. The Titans defense right now, though, is bad on third downs.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I think will get fixed as time goes on because the pass rush is going to get better. Part of that has to do with secondary too, because as I said, we're down 2, 3 starters right now in the secondary. So when we get our pass rush fully ready to go and revved up, because what I would imagine would happen is when we get everybody healthy in our nickel set, we'll have Connie one side, um, Beasley other side, Jeffrey Simmons one tackle, and take your pick at the other tackle. And honestly, Landry might be the other outside linebacker. They might put Connie as a three technique, which I wouldn't hate at all. You get your four best pass rushers on the field. So uh, it'll get better, I hope. But it's quite depressing seeing Buffalo getting 3rd and 19, 3rd and 10, and
Yeah,
converting.
Buffalo's second drive, they ended up scoring a touchdown to tie at 7-7. We allowed a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 15, and a 3rd and 19 all in that one drive.
Yeah.
So third down, we're definitely gonna have to work on, and we're gonna have to. And I feel like this will be an emphasis in practice. We have to keep contained when rushing the quarterback because we
Yes.
have Deshaun Watson this week, who is just as deadly as Josh Allen when you get him outside the pocket.
Yeah.
We're gonna have
It,
to work to keep contained.
if you play the Bucks and you see Brady, you don't gotta worry about contain. Just go get him off his spot. But if you play the new age Mahomes, Allen, even Gardner Minshew, honestly, keep him in the pocket,
Yeah.
please. Which I know is a lot easier said than done, and I'm not hating at all. I love my team. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating at home watching, but I'm not an NFL athlete, so I'll never sit here and absolutely bash an NFL team because I have no idea what it's like and probably never will. So
Yeah. And I'll tell you who was the unsung hero of the night. Chris Milton on
yeah,
special teams. Number
absolutely.
30. He downed a punt at what, the 2 or 3?
Yes.
Um Made a phenomenal tackle to put him inside the 10. This dude was everywhere as a gunner. He's everything that you ask for in a gunner.
He's a Pro Bowl gunner. And shout out Brick Kern. Brick,
Yes.
the best punter in the league. You can at me anywhere you want.
Yeah, when you give the best punter in the league a premium gunner, you have a formidable duo. That's what Pat McAfee was talking about on Twitter during the game. How good that duo, that gunner punter duo is, and how important it is, because you can
Yeah,
absolutely flip the field.
absolutely.
And while we're giving shout outs, I have to shout out Buffalo's punter. He
Yes.
had a Buffalo was after a Kern punt that put Buffalo inside the 10. Buffalo had to punt from within their own 10, and this dude boomed it 70 yards.
Yeah, he
And
did.
then there was a holding penalty on Tennessee to go along with it. So he put us, they were on within their own 10, and he put us in our own 10. He absolutely bombed it. I believe McAfee said it was a 74-yard punt.
Yeah.
He
He
absolutely boomed it.
he had a 70-yard punt, and then we had a holding penalty, which was half distance to the goal. So it was in reality 80. It was an 80-yard punt.
Yeah.
So count the
You know,
penalty.
shout out to Buffalo's punter because that dude was phenomenal.
Corey, I have no idea how to say his last name, so I'm just going to spell it out. Shout out to Corey. His last name is spelled BojoRques. I have no idea how to say that. I don't want to butcher his name and disrespect him like that because I'm terrible with names. But shout out to him. That dude deserves much respect.
Yes, he was phenomenal. But the Titans, they showed that they're legit. They
No,
are Super Bowl contenders.
and look, I'm not saying the Titans are going to come out here every week and go undefeated. They're not. It's the
Yeah, no,
NFL.
they're not.
Who chose the Raiders to beat the Chiefs this week? Because it sure wasn't me.
Yeah.
And as you see what happened, the Raiders dropped 40-1. So
Any
it's
any given Sunday for sure. But
anybody,
I absolutely feel that this is the year that Tennessee gets over that 9-7 hump and establishes themselves as a top AFC team.
which I love to see because, like I said at the beginning, I feel with Vrabel, we get that New England, no matter who we're playing, we're getting a game plan and we're going to execute it.
Yeah.
We win, we win. If not, we didn't execute the game plan good enough. And I love that. I've always felt with the Titans, we have the same game plan every week before Vrabel. And then Vrabel gets here and we start doing different stuff every week on defense, but on offense, it's more of the same. And there's no problem with that because on offense is all about execution. Defense, you 110% have to change what you do every week. Offense is change what they do every week too, but it's not as substantial as defenses do. So I love that part about Mike Vrabel and his staff. Absolutely. I'm praying to God that Arthur Smith does not get a head coaching job. Nothing against him. I still want him
I
to leave
think I think we'll get at least one more season with him before he does.
because that dude absolutely transformed that offense. Absolutely transformed it. And shout out to him. I hope he gets his money one day. and becomes a head coach and has a phenomenal one. But I would hate to see him go. The dude is phenomenal. I can't overstate that enough.
Yeah, and it's funny going into the season. Everybody's like, okay, Kansas City's the best team in the AFC. Baltimore's number two, and you could have made a legitimate argument that Tennessee was number three. Now that the season's progressed, I fully believe it's Kansas City one, and now you have a four-way, you could even argue five-way debate for number two. I feel
Yeah,
like you could argue that Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Cleveland, New England, and Baltimore can all argue for that number two spot. So I feel
yeah.
like, because a lot of people predicted the Titans were going to regress and they were going to take a step back, and they've pretty much made it a point to prove that they are not taking that step back.
And look, it's like we said, it's week 5. We're 4-0. I hopefully we don't end up 4-12. I don't think we will,
Yeah.
but it happens. Like it's any given Sunday, like we said, it's an NFL season, guys. There's ups and downs. All kinds of crazy things happen. Like Le'Veon Bell got released in the middle of a football game tonight. Who would have thought?
And I'll say this, while it is, you know, the NFL any given Sunday, Vrabel usually doesn't lose those games that he shouldn't.
Exactly,
That's what
which has
I
been
was I was talking about this with my dad during the game. We're 4-0. We'd have to finish the season 5-7 to go 9-7 again, and we
it's not.
play Houston twice, Indy twice, Detroit, Chicago, Jacksonville again, Cincinnati. I can't see us going 9-7. I
I
think
think
this is the year we take that step.
isn't our toughest game, which is the NFL. Every week is terrible. Well, not terrible. Every week is a tough matchup. But isn't would you agree our toughest game is Pittsburgh in week 7 now?
No, I would not agree. Here's what I think our toughest game is.
Yeah.
December 27th, Sunday Night
Yeah.
Football. We go to Lambeau.
Yeah. That game's gonna be rough.
Yep.
That yeah. That
Cause
game because it's cold, it's gonna be
and
snowing.
see, and that's the thing. I feel like here's the difference between the Titans this year and every other year. There's not a game on my schedule that goes, okay, yeah, we're definitely losing that one. We
Yeah.
can, and this isn't me saying we're gonna go 16-0 because we're not, but we can compete with every
Yeah.
team on our schedule.
That's all I ask. All I've ever asked for is you beat who you're supposed to be and you compete. You beat who you're supposed to be and you win half of the games that are 50-50. That's all I ask.
Because this year, I do think we'll sweep Houston. I think we'll sweep Jacksonville. I think we will split with Indy because that Indy's defense is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I
we
think
always yeah, I can't
I think we'll
stand.
split with Indy, and then we could easily lose Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Green Bay, or even Cleveland because Cleveland's really good this year. So,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not saying, we're going to go 15-1, 14-2, number one seed. Like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying
No.
that you can look at our schedule and we can compete with everybody on our schedule.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm not looking forward to going back to Baltimore. You think they're going to be hungry for revenge? I do.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see what happens. Like you said, I feel with Red Bull, we're always going to have a game plan. The boys are going to be ready to roll. We have such veterans in the locker room. We have a great veteran young guy mix, and I think that needs to be brought up on every team that's successful. There is a veteran on every team, and there's young guys on every team who mesh with the team, and I feel like the Titans have that to the truest extent.
Yeah.
Like you have guys like Tannehill, who's been around, been a good quarterback in the league, just with a terrible Miami franchise, who is on the up and up now, and like the dude had talent, and the Titans brought him in, traded for him because they knew Marcus couldn't stay healthy. And Tannehill gets a spot, and now Marcus is in Las Vegas. Much love to Marcus. Love the dude as a person. He just wasn't a great fit for us and our football team. So it's just the fact like you have the Malcolm Butlers who's been around forever and is a Super Bowl champion, and he can talk to Adoree, he can talk to Fulton, he can talk to Jackson, and it's just all like it's all meshing together, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And, I feel like many years in the past, the Titans, we started the season with a primetime game against Denver. Due to COVID, this game against Buffalo got moved to a primetime slot on Tuesday. The Titans of the past, in my opinion, they would have wet the bed in primetime. They did that a lot. But now we're going out in marquee matchups and winning football games.
Yeah, for
And,
sure.
we come out, we're facing a red hot Buffalo team, one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Josh Allen is, on the MVP ballot, but everybody's behind Russ in my opinion. But, he was picking up some steam for that, and they came down and shut them down after
Yeah,
16 days of no football.
yeah.
And I think tonight showed me that the Titans have taken that step, in my opinion.
Tonight showed me that no matter what is thrown at the Titans, they'll be ready to play a football game, and that's all you can ask.
And
That's
it's easy to look at statistics and numbers and where you rank in the league, and looking ahead to future weeks. But at the end of the day, we've played 4 games and we've got 4 wins. That's all you can ask for.
That's why, for people wondering, that's why we go into more depth on the games that we watch because obviously we don't get every NFL game, and I can't afford Sunday ticket. I'm just being honest,
Yeah,
and especially with college, there's so many games on. We have to pick one to actually sit down and watch, and usually it's our favorite team, et cetera, et cetera. And so we sit down and we watch every Titans game because we're huge fans, have been our whole lives. So that's why we can go into the in-depth analysis on the game. And
yeah,
it's not only shots at other teams, but we just see the broad overview and we talk about it. So that's just wanted to throw that out there before we wrap things up.
yeah. We're Tennessee fans and we're in the market. So while we will have a lot of Titans coverage, I think that you will all find that we give a pretty objective point of view of
Yeah,
the Titans, in my opinion. I don't feel like, because anybody that knows me knows that I'll be the first one to dog my team when they do something bad.
yeah,
I never sit behind the blinders. I will always be the first one to dog my team.
yeah.
But, beat Buffalo 42-16, 4-0, on to Houston, baby.
Yep.
That's all I got to say for the night. You got anything you want to add?
No, I don't. Thank everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Like,
Yep.
comment, subscribe.
Thank y'all.